Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. We've got a great show for you today, but before we get there, let's take a look and see how we did on the recap screen on Tuesday. I believe we went, 3-3. The SportsLine pick hits yet again. Mikey B, 1 for 2, Buckets, 1 for 2. UCLA mounted a pretty good comeback against Michigan and then kind of fell flat there. My Harry Hall pick, my T30 pick, of course, that pick is pending, along with some golf picks that I'll probably give out tomorrow, since this tournament starts tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. Speaking of golf, Farzad Porarian says, in Hawaii, we'll be at my home course tomorrow for the Sony Open. First round leader, Maverick McNeely. Very interesting. Love that for you. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We've got a lot to talk about. We got soccer with Martin Green. We got basketball with Tom Casale. We got basketball and NFL wildcard with PropStarz. Proppy, let me start with you. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Good morning, gentlemen. It's awesome to be here. I love coming on and doing these morning shows with you guys. So I'm fired up, guys. There is an NBA game tonight that is a potential finals preview. We've got the 31-4 Cleveland Cavaliers facing the 30-5 Oklahoma City Thunder, the two best records in the NBA. Both these teams have been playing great basketball. Not a lot of positive headlines coming out of the NBA recently, but I cannot wait for this showdown. Both these teams have been incredible over the first half of the season.
That, it's staggering when you hear that record, especially when you understand that the NBA this time of year, you got a lot of teams kind of, having some superstars taking some time off or just maybe not taking games seriously. These two teams clearly locked in, clearly trying to lock up a number one seed. It's kind of refreshing to see that. Martin Green, it's refreshing to see you. I haven't seen you in at least 1 week. How you doing today, buddy?
It's great to be back on the show, Sia. Yeah, I think I had a little 2-week hiatus over the holiday season, but I am raring to go. Got some soccer picks. We've got lots of big games taking place this week, so I've found some picks in Spain, Italy, and Turkey for everyone.
All right, Tom Casale, how you doing today? I got to tell you, I was impressed. First of all, your college basketball, you're second to none. Everybody knows that. I was really impressed with UCLA and how they battled back yesterday after being down early, and then it just kind of went haywire. You're coming back with another college basketball pick today, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I went 2-1 yesterday. It was odd. All three games were blowouts, and two went my way. One went against me. I gave out the wrong pick on the show, obviously. I should have given out Florida. The problem with college basketball, the reason I didn't give out Florida is, these lines move so much in the first few hours. And when I was on the show, Florida was -4. And I wasn't going to give them out at -4. So I gave out UCLA. And I think one of the things interesting, though, Sia, real quick, is in the next year or so, we're going to see coaches who do well with the transfer portal and coaches who don't. I was watching that game last night. Michigan has a brand new coach who's got all new players. I don't know if Mick Cronin, I don't know if the transfer portal is working for UCLA. So just keep that in mind.
That is very, very interesting. And I'm sure that'll come up in your capping. But I think it's important that you did point out that you were 2-1 yesterday. I mean, this, Larry last week, he gave out a pick, an NFL pick, and it was just the one pick on the early edge and it lost. Well, the other 4 picks he had on SportsLine along with that pick won. So he went 4-1, but 0-1 on the recap screen. It's why we tell you this show is just a microcosm of the picks you can get on SportsLine. So just make sure you're locked in, especially to these three guys. When they make a pick, you're going to want to make that pick pretty much right away and tail them, because sometimes those lines can move. All right, before we get to your pick, I do want to, since Farzad had that first round leader pick, again, this tournament, because it's out in Hawaii, where Farzad is going to be, or where he lives apparently, which is so cool. This thing doesn't start, they don't tee off, I think, until 12:10. So because of potential weather issues tomorrow, I'm going to wait to give out a few first round leaders for tomorrow morning's early edge, a few outrights for tomorrow morning's early edge. So just know, and I'll have a matchup for tomorrow for round 1 as well. So just know that golf picks normally would come on a Wednesday on this show, but they're going to come on a Thursday because they are out there in Hawaii. All right, Tom, let's get started with some more college basketball. Again, you went 2-1 yesterday, a winning day. Let's try to have another one. Who do you got?
Yeah, tonight I'm going to go with Arkansas in a bounce back spot. I gave them out 2.5 last night, but when I gave them out, they were 2.5, 3 all over. And then, of course, 5 minutes later, they were 3.5 across the board. So I would go, if you can get 3, 2.5, I like them for a full unit. 3.5 or more, I'd say go for a half unit. And again, we're not going to have a night like last night where all my picks are blowouts one way or the other. These are conference games. But I think Arkansas, they just got blasted by Tennessee on the road. I think they can get out and transition on Ole Miss. You don't want to get half court. You don't want to go half court against that Chris Beard defense. And we'll see what tonight brings. But my gut tells me Ole Miss is a team you bet at home. But if they're a small dog on the road, that's the time you want to go against them because they do have offensive issues. And I just like the spot for the Razorbacks just coming off the blowout. Again, we'll see. Calipari, we know, is a guy who's going to use the transfer portal. He's just starting to get his rotation in. But Arkansas's got a couple good wins on the year. Listen, that Michigan win's looking better and better by the day. Michigan's a really good team. So give me the Razorbacks at home to cover the small number.
Absolutely love it. I'm sorry. While you were giving that take, I was distracted by Farzad, who says he's up at 5 a.m. every day to watch the early edge because he does live out in Hawaii. So I don't want to undersell the Arkansas pick. Everybody, I'm sure it was locked in, but that is the type of dedication we just absolutely love. Farzad, thank you for waking up early and catching us. We hope we are a good start to your day. Michael, let's see. Mokri says, I found a boost on Thigala top 10 at plus 425. Question mark. So that one's interesting, Martin. Before we get to your picks, I do want to address that. Thigala is an interesting one because for some reason he opened at 30-1 and he's fallen to 35-1, which means there's certainly no sharp money on him. He's one of the most talented guys in this field. I think he's great for an outright, but he's certainly not a great course fit. The thing about the top 10 is, for me, I would wait to see if he's on the good side of the weather edge, which we might not know until tonight or tomorrow. And there might not be a weather edge, but I'm going to wait when it comes to a top 10 on a guy that may or may not be a great course fit. I think I'm going to wait, but I don't mind that plus 425 number. As far as outrights, I just want to let everybody know, I think Thigala is right up there, even though he's allegedly not a good course fit. Robert McIntyre is a guy I'm considering, and I've already bet Mackenzie Hughes at 65-1. So those are some that I'm considering, notwithstanding any type of weather edge. All right. I'm sure we'll have more golf questions, more NBA questions. We'll have a lot of NFL to tackle with PropStarz, but let's go to soccer first. Martin Green, what you got?
Thank you, Sia. Yeah, there's some big games taking place today. We've got Liverpool versus Tottenham in the EFL Cup. I do think Liverpool should win that one. I'm looking at maybe Liverpool and over 1.5 goals, or perhaps Liverpool and over 2.5 goals in the game. But I just want to wait and see the starting 11 before putting a bet on that one. So for my pick for the show, I've looked over in Saudi Arabia, where the Spanish Super Cup is taking place. Spain's best teams have flown to the Middle East, and today we have Barcelona versus Athletic Bilbao. Really stern test of their mettle for Barcelona. Athletic Bilbao are in fine form right now, 7 wins from their last 9 games. However, this match really represents a perfect opportunity for Barcelona to get their faltering season back on track. They've had a couple of weeks to rest and recuperate, and they have a really terrific record against Athletic Club. 8 wins and 2 draws from the last 10 league meetings between these teams. They did beat Athletic Bilbao 2-1 earlier this season. I think they look capable of securing a similar result today, so I'm going for a moneyline win for Barcelona in that game. I do quite like both teams to score as well. While I'm on the show, I just wanted to give out a little parlay for the weekend too. And I'm looking at a 2-team parlay featuring Inter and Galatasaray, as you can see below. Inter will be disappointed by their 3-2 defeat to AC Milan in the Italian Super Cup. They're going to be a bit fatigued because they have to fly back from Saudi Arabia now, but I still expect them to bounce back with a win against relegation-threatened Venezia, who have lost 11 out of 19 games so far. Parlaying them with Galatasaray. Turkish champions are just in fine form right now. They've won their last 4 matches against Başakşehir. I expect that record to continue this week. There's a cup game taking place between those two today, but I'm actually looking at the league game between Galatasaray and Başakşehir at the weekend. Inter and Galatasaray, both teams together at plus 110. looks like great odds to me. If anyone has any other games they want to talk about, just hit me up in the chat and I'll reply. Thank you.
Absolutely love that. Big Cheesy 707 says Wednesdays are much better when listening to the guru speak. That's absolutely true for whatever reason. By the way, this is so unrelated and kind of ridiculous. When Galatasaray, for some reason, I hope I pronounced that right, reminds me of the name Galaga, which I'm like, Tom, you and I might be of the age where we remember the video game, arcade game Galaga. Really underrated old school arcade game. If you have an arcade game from an old school one, you got to be of a certain age, right? Put it in the chat because I've got a few. Tom, did you play Galaga when you were a kid?
I was going to say, unfortunately, I'm so old, I remember Pong. So, yes, I used to actually have they used to have those mini arcade games that you could buy for yourself and play them at home. And they had Galaga, and I had that.
When you got the double shooters on Galaga, it was like, let's go. It's go time. That was fun.
Kids today will never understand how great things like that and that little football game we had where it was just little dashes were going across the field, and the Mattel football game. It's, now it's like watching a game on TV when my sons play. They look like real people.
That's totally true. One quick question, Tom. Jeff Stenberg said, UConn, Villanova, UConn getting a point. I wish I could read the comment. I skipped over it, but it was something his sense of humor is better than mine, but he was basically saying he wanted to put the GDP of a small country on UConn on the road here. Any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, this is one of those matchups I tend to stay away from, and here's why. Both teams are going to shoot a lot of threes against defenses that don't defend the three well. If one of those teams is off, then you get into trouble. I bet North Dakota State one night. I took their team total. I gave it up on the show early on in the season. They hit a season low 44 points. Why? They were 2 for 28 from three. So when teams shoot a lot of threes, you can run into that night where they're cold. And North Dakota State, number 1 3-point shooting team in the country. So I see both these teams shooting a bunch of threes. I do give UConn an edge down low. But when I analyzed the game, it was just a stay away. I would say this: watch it early if you're a live bettor. If these teams are hitting early, this game's going to go over because they don't defend the perimeter well. But a slight lean to UConn, but I don't have a strong play on the game.
All right, so we're not putting the GDP of a small nation on that one. Listen, we've got a lot of answers coming in. Blades of Steel, really interesting. A lot of answers coming in on that arcade stuff. We got to transition to some NFL, but before we get to the NFL picks, I want to remind you about the promo we talked about yesterday. This is a big one. Bet on a player to find the end zone and win a share of $250,000 in bonus bets if they end up scoring the longest touchdown of the week. A touchdown is always 6 points, but the longest one could mean you get $250,000 in bonus bets. Wager on any player to score during a game. If your pick has the longest touchdown of the week, you'll win big-time bonus bets on top of your wager. Here's how it works. Opt in with the longest touchdown jackpot promotion. Place a $10 anytime touchdown wager up to one eligible bet per game. If your player scores the longest touchdown of the week, you'll win a share of $250,000 in bonus bets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of the NFL, we got to get there, and we're going to do it right after this message from our partners. We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Rick Funcannon says NBA Jam. I mean, that's got to be top 5 all-time arcade games. Proppy, I see you nodding your head. You're aware of that one. Let's see. There was another one I really like, Golden Tee from Big Cheesy. I'm going to go old school. Golden Axe was really fun to play. Kind of obscure. I'm not sure everybody played Golden Axe, but that one, if you know it, it's a good one. Here's a good pick, I think. This is a Joe Public pick. I'm taking it anyway. Chargers. Now that this line is under 3 at most books, or I should say at least half of the major books, I'll take the -2.5. Listen, this is more, I've never really been a Chargers guy this entire season, but I do have to acknowledge Justin Herbert has been playing good ball. This defense pretty stout, a good offensive line, relatively inefficient running game, but the receivers with Quentin Johnston stepping up here and there, guys like Will Dissly stepping up and helping out guys like Ladd McConkey. I think they have enough offense to get by the Houston Texans. The Texans offense just hasn't looked good at all. Forget about that 31-2 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Prior to that, now that you don't have Stephon Diggs, now that you don't have Tank Dell to stretch the field, it's really just an inefficient Mixon and Nico Collins, and that's it. And a CJ Stroud that's really regressed. So I just think the Chargers are getting the best draw they could have possibly gotten to advance in the playoffs. I'm only getting laying 2.5 here. I think they win by 3 or more. So give me the Chargers. They got the coaching edge, most likely. They certainly got the quarterback edge and the overall team. I do respect the Houston front seven, but I like the Chargers defense as a whole a lot more. So I'm going to take the Chargers minus 2.5. Probably before we get to your picks, I know you're not necessarily a sides guy. Any thoughts on how that game might transpire?
As far as Houston is concerned against the Chargers?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think you made a compelling case for the Chargers. I think CJ Stroud, as you mentioned, has really regressed significantly this season. If you look at a lot of the advanced metrics, they're not very pretty. He had a much better rookie season than he's had in his sophomore campaign. Also, if we look at the Texans as a whole, I think they peaked earlier in the season than they have recently. If we look at them, over the past 5 weeks, we compare both teams, I would make the argument the Chargers are playing better football. I also trust the coaching staff as well. Lots of experience there. So I do lean the Chargers' way for sure.
All right, Proppy, you have an NFL pick, or I should say an NFL prop, and you've got an NBA pick for tonight. Start wherever you want here.
All right, we'll start in the NBA, guys, and I'm on a cold streak right now, so we're going to bust out of this cold streak, starting with this pick, and it's going to be fading Nikola Vucevic, something I've been a little bit unsuccessful with in a couple previous attempts, but as you guys know, I'm not afraid to go right back to the proverbial well here. I'm going to go under 19.5 points for Vucevic, who in year 14 is having a career best season. His efficiency is through the roof. That is just not sustainable. The wheels are going to fall off for Nikola Vucevic, whether it happens tonight or it happens a week from now or a month from now. I assure you, he cannot sustain his current shooting. This number is also inflated because of the opponent, the Indiana Pacers. In the previous last couple of years, they were like the optimal matchup when you're playing overs because they played at one of the fastest pace and also one of the worst defenses. That hasn't been the case this season. They rank outside of the top 10 in possessions per game, and the first time I can remember probably in the last 5 years. They're also not quite as bad as they have been defensively. So I rate them more of a neutral matchup, but I feel like the odds makers view them as the great matchup that they were in recent historical trends don't really apply here. So I think it's a good spot to fade Vucevic. I do think we're going to see his scoring dip sooner than later. Hopefully it starts tonight. Then we're moving to the NFL. So far, this is my favorite prop, the only prop I've put out, and I absolutely love this spot. The market's trending in this direction as well. And that's Josh Jacobs to go under 71.5 rushing yards. I got this out on the site, I believe around 24 hours ago at 73 and a half, certainly moving down. I'd play this one down to 69.5. Jacobs, who had a very strong debut season with the Packers, his efficiency has really decreased recently. He's been under 70 yards in 5 of his last 6 games, only eclipsing 20 carries in one of those games as well. But really this has to do with the matchup against the Eagles. The Eagles are very stout front seven, healthy as well. They're second in EPA allowed per rush, 6th in success rate, so a very good run defense as well. So I also think the Eagles, as long as Jalen Hurts is cleared, which I anticipate him playing, will be able to push Green Bay to the point where it's just unlikely we're going to see a tremendous amount of volume for Josh Jacobs. I think in the second half, the Packers are going to be forced to air the ball out a bit. So I think this is a very good spot to fade Jacobs. I'd play this one down to 69.5.
All right. Sounds good. Tom, I a little birdie told me you have a question for PropStarz. Oh, he's on mute. That's just a shame. That's a shame. 0 for 1. 0 for 1 on the mute button. Go ahead, Tom.
That's why I never put it on mute, because every time I do, I forget to unmute it. No, an NBA question for PropStarz. You mentioned the Thunder and Cavaliers are playing tonight. I'm just interested, not a pick, but who do you like in that game?
I can't wait for this game, Tom. The Thunder are playing such good basketball right now. I was very impressed with what they did against Boston. SGA is the best player on the court in this matchup. So they're pretty evenly matched, 1 through 5, along with Boston. I consider these the 2 best starting 5s in the NBA alongside Boston. So I'm going to take the team with the best player, and that's SGA right now. He's just closing games so well. Jalen Williams is also incredibly underrated, in my opinion. So I love the Oklahoma City Thunder. I love the Cavs, too, but I'm going to go with the slight lean towards the Thunder.
I'll say this, KC3 likes OKC +3. That's a pick there. And then Big Cheesy FY likes Miles Turner over 14.5 points at -115. He even gives his analysis in the chat. You want to be in the chat, folks. People asking Big Cheesy questions about that. We've got SGA over 32.5 points from KC3. That's an interesting one. Martin Green, anything before we get to the recap screen, anything soccer-wise you need to address?
Nothing to address, Sia. No. Brad Betts has normally got some soccer picks. I haven't seen any of them. So put them in there, Brad. What are you playing at? But no, mainly everyone's just talking about arcade games now. Someone just mentioned Streets of Rage 2. That was a sensational game. Used to love that. But yeah, if you do have any soccer questions, I'm here to answer them.
Paul L says the question he was going to ask is, what's your thought on cranberry sauce? That rant is over until next Thanksgiving, folks. Just say no to putting cranberry sauce on the Thanksgiving table. We don't need it. There are so many. Double Dragon from Jeffrey Aguilar, Space Invaders from Scott Sneed, and Asteroid. Wow, we're really going old school. Some I haven't even heard. Dragon's Lair, I remember that. Golden Axe, Big Cheesy's giving props to that one. Excite Bike for Nintendo. Well, it's not an arcade game, but either way, I guess we're including some of these other games too. Man, we could do this show for an hour on just arcade games. Maybe we should. Early Edge has to have like a side pop culture show. I'm gonna lobby for that because I want to head that team up here. All right, let's talk Frogger from Mr. Big. Wow, I know Qbert was mentioned earlier as well. All right, let's take a look. Go ahead, Proppy. Before we look,
I did want to get your guys' takes from the 3 of you on what I think is the most compelling matchup of Wild Card Weekend: the Green Bay Packers versus Martin and I's Philadelphia Eagles. I talked about this at length on the network show with you yesterday, Sia.
Yep.
I view this Packers team as a viable Super Bowl contender here, and I'm scared as an Eagles fan. So would love to know what you guys think about this game, if you think Green Bay is a live dog here.
Let's go around the horn. Martin, I'm going to start with you. Let's do it in 10 seconds or less. What do you like in this one?
I'm concerned about the Packers because I think they've been very strong in recent weeks. Even when they've lost, they've come very close against some very good teams. I'm just hoping they're quite a young team, aren't they? So I'm just hoping that their inexperience is the stumbling block in this game. And the Eagles have a bit more experience in the playoffs. So I think they could just about cover it, but I'm a bit nervous.
All right, the line is 4.5, Tom. What do you think?
Yeah, so my son is a massive Eagles fan too. He wears an Eagles jersey to school every day, and we were sitting here last Sunday rooting for the scenario where they didn't get the Packers. I mean, that's the toughest, in my opinion, the toughest first round game of anybody, because I can see the Packers going to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And I'll go this far. I say the winner of that game goes to the Super Bowl in the NFC.
So that's so interesting because on the network show yesterday, I gave out as an exacta the Bills over the Packers at 55-1. Nobody's talking about the Bills for some reason, like they don't exist. But either way, I agree with you. I think the NFC is completely up for grabs. So I think it's just as viable for the Packers as most of the teams in the NFC. I like the Packers to cover the number, Proppy, the +4.5. But I mean, we know that this, like, Christian Watson being injured is kind of a big deal here. But either way, I like the Packers +4.5. And you know, for me as a Washington fan, knowing that I think they can beat Tampa, I obviously am rooting for the Packers because I don't want Washington to face the Eagles at all, because the Eagles are going to get their revenge with Jalen Hurts healthy for 4 quarters. All right. By the way, Proppy, do you have a take on the spread?
I think Tom summed it up very well. I agree. Yeah. The winner of this team would be my favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So this is a tough game. Packers are a very good opponent. I think it's going to be very competitive. I'd probably lean the Packers in the points here.
Yeah, Lions fans are like, hey, what about us? Well, listen, there's a lot of good teams in the NFC. We have to only pick one to be an NFC champion. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen. I'm on the Chargers -2.5. Of course, that's Saturday afternoon. I'll have some golf picks on tomorrow's show. I might even have a college football pick because I am very intrigued by this Notre Dame Penn State game. So buckle up. We'll probably have multiple picks on that game, but I might even bring one. Tom Casale, Arkansas, -2.5 tonight. Martin Green, Barcelona money line, and a parlay, money line parlay, Inter plus Galatasaray at +110. And that prompted the Galaga and Arcade. Just so many answers in the chat. Love to see it. PropStarz, Josh Jacobs under 71.5 rushing yards at -110, and Nikola Vucevic under 19.5 points at -115. Big Cheesy says it all. He said, good luck today, fam. And Farzad says, never fade M2. Well, that's definitely great advice. You can find his picks on SportsLine, of course, and he'll be on the early edge coming up soon. And on Fantasy Football Today, DFS tomorrow as well at 11 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, what a show. Martin Green, Tom Casale, Alex Selznick, a.k.a. PropStarz, and we've got Claire and Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. This is such a great show that all the producers just want to join. Like, we didn't even need to. They're like, we love this show so much. We went in on the arcade conversation. We went in on the football stuff, the basketball, the soccer, the college basketball. What a great Wednesday we are having. Let's keep it a great Wednesday. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow on the early edge. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.